It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, folks, I'm sitting here with Jeremiah School, and Jeremiah School is the president of Dot Security. We know that Dot Security is one of those sister companies, part of Impact Networking. And I got to tell you something, he picked a perfect spot for us to have a beer. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic today.
Well, I got to tell you, man, you say we want to have a beer, and I'm thinking we're going to go to some sports pub, and we end up here in this beautiful, where the hell are we at anyway? Venice?
I think Venice is appropriate.
Yeah, the mountains are beautiful. Well, I wanted to talk to you a little bit. I met with Kuko a little while ago, and I got to tell you, we were in France with Frank in front of the Eiffel Tower, beautiful spot, but I'm thinking I kind of like this a little better. But you've been the president of Dot Security now for how long?
About 6 months.
6 months. Dot Security, cybersecurity, you have a beautiful facility, probably one of the best facilities I've ever seen. As a matter of fact, the governor of Illinois stood in that when you had your open house and said it was the coolest building he's ever been in. And I'm thinking to myself, we need to take that building, we need to take that infrastructure, and we need to build a channel program. So I know that Dot Security is doing this for your own customers and things are going great with that, but I got to ask you, when are we going to see that be a channel partner program?
Well, the channel's been something that we've been working toward for quite a while. And as of right now, our goal is to enter that January 1st, 2026.
Okay.
Obviously, being mature and capable to be able to support channel partners is the most important thing. And I just didn't feel that we were ready to do that just yet. So graciously from Mr. Kuko, which hopefully he'll be bringing me to the Eiffel Tower tomorrow or maybe later this afternoon, allowed us to take an investment on from Impact to be able to upstaff our team, to be able to accelerate that maturity and be able to enter the channel sooner than we were calculated to. So we're hoping to do so by January 1st, 2026, and feeling really good about that timeline and being able to do that in a way to where we've got a level of maturity that can truly set our partners up for success.
And I want you to elaborate a little more on that, because what I hear, and I want to make sure the audience hears this too, that Dot Security is delivering exceptional experiences around cybersecurity to your own customers. That's a fact. And I think a lot of people, when they think about a channel or they think about a cybersecurity company in the channel space, there's a lot of these folks, and quite honestly, I think they're building a false impression of cybersecurity delivered with excellence. They're going to the wrong partners, and the wrong partners are selling the wrong customers. And so I want to make sure the audience understands why you're taking that journey. And when you do go into the channel, what are you going to look for as a channel provider? What will differentiate you?
I'm really glad that you're bringing that up, because so many of what would be considered our competitors in the channel are really offering, I would say, core MDR services, managed detection and response. And although that's an absolute vital core service to have in any IT service or cyber service offering, I feel that it's the consultative side, and where I feel we have a differentiator in the marketplace will be our staff of vCISOs, really being able to bring the consultancy side into those partnered organizations, into their clients, and to be able to help them understand alignment to core frameworks, so that we can drive them towards an end result that is visible, not a framework that we create ourselves, something that is available out there in the marketplace. Do that in a consultative way where we can communicate with the executives of that organization to help them understand what that journey, not that project, but what that journey actually looks like to actually get them secure. You had also mentioned what others are doing in the channel, from maybe a maturity perspective, or the type of partners, I should say, the type of partners that we're looking for. If something like multi-factor authentication, or even the conversation of putting a zero trust strategy in place, is something new to an organization that would be looking to partner with us, they're not mature enough. We need organizations that are already operating at a baseline cyber maturity in order to find success with us. I
think a lot of people, I'm going to talk about our print industry, and I like to poke fun of them here and there, but at the end of the day, I get frustrated when I hear them throw it or see them throwing cybersecurity on their website, running around town telling everybody they're cybersecurity people. I can just imagine that the dealership is having a lunch and learn, and they bring in some folks and they're going to talk about cybersecurity, and somebody says, what's the password for the internet? And they say, oh, it's our phone number. And so you gotta question sometimes the maturity level and the skill set. And I know not all of the print partners are that way, but when I listen to the partners that they're associating themselves with, I have to ask the question, are those partners just telling them what the hell they want to hear? Because our industry is really good about that.
You bet.
Hey, we'll do it your way. We're going to customize cybersecurity. Well, cybersecurity is cybersecurity. You don't customize it. And so I just think that I'm spot on that you're doing that, because that's exciting to me. And I wouldn't think that if you're going to go out in the marketplace and sell your managed services contracts, you define the persona of the customer, they buy the damn stack, and they do it the way you do it, and you have a fee-based assessment, and all those disciplines will carry forward to that channel partner as well.
Absolutely, yeah. We definitely don't take an a la carte menu approach to this, and I think you're well aware of what the results of that would be. The partners, clients would subscribe to the lowest amount of cybersecurity products and services that they would need to on whatever their definition of need is, right? And if their partnering organization, again, that client, if we're talking that channel model, if the partnering organization isn't extremely educated on what real cybersecurity is, unfortunately, you've got a client going to someone that they feel is an expert in their industry who really isn't, and unfortunately might be partnered with organizations that might have a single product or a platform of products that is really their interest in working with and educating that partner, and then serving the client. So education is really important. Understanding where that education comes from is really important. I would argue that if you're seeking your cyber awareness and education to bring to your client base from your vendor or a few of your vendors, you're really leaving yourself short, and probably missing a lot of things that puts you and your clients at significant risk.
What should they do if I'm a dealer? So I'm thinking, I go to this, meeting for the dealer channel, for the print channel. They put the expert on stage. It's the cybersecurity expert. He tells me everything I want to hear. It's going to be so easy. We do everything for you. All you got to do is go get the customer. So I'm listening to all this nonsense, but I'm believing it. What do I do to protect myself and not want to listen to that nonsense? So where do I go get education from someone that's not going to be a vendor that's going to support me? Is that even out there?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it is. There's so many, like any other discipline, there are going to be member-led communities that are out in the marketplace. And by marketplace, I just mean like out in the business world where you can go connect with them. And I'm not going to name drop any of those associations, but there's plenty of them out there. If you're the executive of an organization, I would argue that you're probably not the right person to go get excited to be in those communities. But you might have someone on your team that is really excited about the opportunity to bring that expertise to your organization and get involved in those communities. And I would say that is probably the best place to start to be able to understand what is the true scope of cyber, and is the vendor that I'm working with leading me down the right path? And quite honestly, are there other vendors out there that might be selling a competitive product that would help me either better understand the product that this vendor is trying to push me toward, or to validate some of the stuff that vendor is sharing with me?
Well, I think a good question that you'd ask all of them, who have you refused to be a vendor for? And when the answer is, we do it with everybody, probably you should run.
Yeah, that's a little concerning.
And I'm excited about this, and January 26th can't come quick enough, but we need to do it with perfection, and I know that KUKO doesn't do anything kind of half-assed, so it's going to be perfect. So it's good stuff. So 6 months you've been there. Give me the biggest challenge you've had so far.
By far, it's the people. That investment of capital to be able to bring on some additional team members has increased our staff by 1/3. So bringing those new team members in and making sure that we're aligning those resources to drive initiative instead of just trying to pick up busy work, because everyone always feels busy, is a challenge. Doing that while our existing team members that have a lot of tenure with the business see all of these new faces and understand where's their position and what does their roadmap look like. I'm really, really passionate about people in business. So doing that in an empathetic way, employee to employee, can be difficult at scale. But that's my biggest challenge. That I don't think that's the biggest challenge for the business overall. The biggest challenge for the business is maturing fast enough to get to channel. But my biggest challenge is making sure that we're doing that in the right way for our team members so that we can build a very competent staff to serve that channel when we're ready to be there.
Well, a leader that's people first is a good leader, number one. And I always, me and Frank were talking about this in front of the Eiffel Tower. But at the end of the day, if you have the right people, and those people will put more responsibility on themselves than you ever would, then you definitely have those right people.
You got it.
And it's a lot easier to navigate through any kind of challenge you might have. It's exciting stuff. I mean, the facility's awesome. You guys started doing some cybersecurity summits. So just share a little bit about that summit, that strategy that you're doing with those summits.
Yeah, the cybersecurity summits are something that I believe we've been doing now for about a year and a half. I recently just started joining our fantastic team members that put that on about 6 months ago in my new role. And that has been tremendously enjoyable, simply because it's really about education where, of course, I think a lot of those get to be very sales focused, especially when you start bringing in a lot of vendors, of which we only bring in one vendor, and that vendor is usually just helping us from a fiscal perspective.
Okay.
So we're really able to be education first, and about half of the entire presentation is walking through tabletop exercises to get the audience thinking about how they're being proactive and resilient within their own businesses. The conversations that we get to have with those customers and those prospects in the room is so fun. It is. It's difficult to do it without scaring the crap out of people, but that's the reality that we live in. Helping to talk through those scenarios gives them confidence and erodes a little bit of that scariness. And just being able to have those conversations in a trusted format has just been really, really enjoyable.
It's just amazing to me. Here we are the last 5 years and all the crap that's happened around cybersecurity, one after the other. And we're still having to have conversations with business owners about why cybersecurity is important to them. But it's amazing, number one. And then it became this buzzword for ancillary industries like the print industry and some of these other folks out there that are trying to figure out how to take cybersecurity and make it about how to sell more of their core deliverable instead of making it about selling cybersecurity.
You bet.
So
I think the core difference there is, especially in the print industry, reselling a piece of hardware and having that on someone's desk doesn't pose a tremendous amount of risk to the print provider that is providing that unit or the fleet of printers, right? And it's a different ball game when you're delivering a cybersecurity service because you're taking on a level of risk with that client and you're taking this risk journey with them, right? So the products you recommend to them, the services that you provide, and the roadmap that you build for them and drive them down is something that they're not only trusting you to make sure that you're giving them the right guidance, but I would argue that there's a level of risk that you're accepting and navigating with them, and I think that can't be understated. If you think you're going to go into that and be able to do that without a high level of understanding and expertise about what cybersecurity is, true advanced cybersecurity, the risk game is real, and it could be very dangerous if you're making the wrong moves.
So I want you to give the advice if I'm right, because coming from me, they might say, "Oh, you're crazy, Ray." But if you say it, they probably believe you. But if you're going to get into cybersecurity, in my opinion, I don't care what vertical you're in, that's what you want to do. Isn't the first step to go find some human capital that understands cybersecurity, that can educate your business on what you need and how you're going to go to market, that can vet the dealers, shouldn't that be the first step?
Absolutely, and I would argue that you probably shouldn't just go to a point vendor to go get that education, right? It's really, really difficult to go out into the marketplace and to find cyber professionals in general. And if an organization is doing that, they're probably going out there to find their first or their second cyber professional. And I say that because you're putting a lot in terms of the risk of the business and hoping that one person can come in and help give you all of the guidance that you need and that person is going to stick with you long enough to help you on and to navigate that journey with and for you. So I definitely think it's important to have those types of resources on staff, but you also have to be realistic about where those additional resources are coming outside of the organization and partnering with true cyber companies to be able to bring that education and then maybe some services and some products to be able to guide you down that path.
I get that. I just want to be clear in my thinking. I don't. What I'm saying is, if I'm a dealer, whatever I'm selling as a core, but I want to get in cybersecurity, I have to have somebody on my staff that can work with the firm that I outsource. Obviously, I'm not recommending anybody get into SOC services and build a SOC center. I mean,
for sure,
you know, Kuko has he's a different visionary, but he did it. It's working great. But that's not what our friends in the industry need to do. What they need to do is partner with folks like you, but they need to also have somebody on staff. You can't outsource everything.
Absolutely.
That's the point.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. I mean, if you're going to try to outsource all of your finance, you know, all of your accounts receivable, your accounts payable, and so forth, and have no one in your business that knows anything about that stuff, I think you would recognize that the potential to let the fox in the hen house is pretty capable, right? So absolutely need to have some level of expertise on staff. And it doesn't mean that expertise has to be at an executive level or that it can't be at a junior level, but someone has to be helping you understand where the gaps in that expertise within the organization is, so that you can bring in the right partners to fill the gaps. And I would argue that doing that without someone internally to guide you is, again, putting you in a position to allow the fox in the hen house, because no one is going to have your organization's best interests in mind but for those that work for the organization. So not to say that there aren't great companies out there, because there absolutely are, but I would say that having that expertise and that guidance in-house is extremely important.
Well, I got to tell you, it was a great conversation. We took a buzzword and we brought some context to the content, and I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I look forward to going and visiting you in that new facility, because every time I go in there, I'm kind of amazed by it.
You're welcome anytime.
Is there anything you want to add before we end this?
I would just say that I think it's absolutely vital that organizations understand what true advanced cybersecurity looks like, so that when they are asked to implement what I think are some of the most basic cyber controls, many of those of which cyber insurance is now requiring these organizations to have, that they have some context of what they're being asked to do. I fear that so many organizations think that when they're told to add MDR or SIM, some buzzwords in our cybersecurity world, right, that they feel like they're being asked to add the Cadillac of cyber services. And I think it's really important for them to understand that what is truly advanced cybersecurity is nothing of what they're being asked to implement. So sometimes I think that context would help them understand why making those choices and that spend now is important, and hopefully give them a little bit of guidance to budget out for what's likely to come in the future.
Well, I would say that they need to sit tight, wait till January 26th, and reach out to you.
We'll be here.
Because everybody watching me knows this: status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and we're going to drink a beer.
Cheers.